Just gonna hit record and start recording. Okay. Hi, my name is Denissa Palmer on behalf of One People Toronto, and today we are opening the discussion about mental health again. Today we have the honor of speaking with our wonderful young man, Jay. He is extremely talented, and he'll be sharing a lot about his journey, with mental health. So with that being said, I just want to get right into it, Jay. So, have you ever, had any struggles with mental health?
Yeah, it's kind of more of like, for me personally, it was like a internal battle happening within the mind and like the heart, and that being influenced from experiences and environments as well. As well as realizations that come to the surface, whether it's like bottled in emotions or experiences that came out of the shadow through either something triggering it or through personal exploration of like my own psyche and being intentful to peel back the layers and unravel the string. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely like towards, I guess, doing the work to healing yourself and the most core. So you did say something, you brought up something about, I guess, like external influences and like people on the outside really having a trigger of you. So that kind of leads to the next question. Like what areas in your life did you really see and feel the most triggered? And like, what areas did you feel like, this is really showing me like I really need to look within myself and heal more?
I would say home and family, because that's where we first learn things. That's when we first absorb things as a child, unconsciously, certain patterns and traits get put into the subconscious mind, and when you're interacting with people or just navigating in the world in general, certain traits that you've learned at home, you kind of replicate unknowingly, until something clashes with whether it's your actions or within whatever interaction it is, and you're just like, whoa, wait, where did this come from? Why is this person reacting to something that seemed quote unquote quote normal for me? And then once that mirror doesn't match that energy that you're sending out, it kind of puts you in a state of like deep reflection on trying to pinpoint where certain traits came from.
I definitely agree. So you did say like family is, you would say, is the biggest impact for you. So with that being said, when you were going through these struggles and these challenges, like within yourself, were you more willing to have that like open discussion with your family, or was that something that you kept like extremely private?
I think it was more so private because I had to question before jumping to a conclusion and being like, going into that victimization trait, like really just observe instead of absorb.
I get that.
And being in that state of observing, it kind of answered the questions that I had within my own mind,
Yeah, definitely. I definitely understand. So I noticed a lot of people say, like, even personally for me, a lot of my family, when I was going through my own personal struggles with mental health, a lot of people around me were kind of telling me that, I noticed that you were kind of off, or, you were more quiet, or just like a little bit different. Did you ever get that reaction from anyone around you that, like, why are you being so quiet? Or just like, why this or why that? Like, has that ever really impacted you or, kind of driven you to not, I guess, continue down that road of healing?
Mm. Do you mean like kind of like just shutting down and closing yourself off for like a brief
Basically,
moment?
yeah, basically. Like, how did you really like, because a lot of people, I guess, heal from mental health when they have like a better surrounding and people to help them, So, but from what it sounds like, you really just healed yourself by yourself kind of thing. So my question is like, how? Like, you didn't have that support, or did you have like external support, like friends, or what kind of support did you have that you felt like you didn't need your family to really be there for you?
Mm, I've always been hungry for knowledge and information and diving into different cultural studies and like spiritual studies. Um, and yeah, of course, I have friends as well that I would be able to be transparent with and interact with, depending on like the topic of discussion or situations if I wanted to. Um, but I don't really like overburdening other people with things that don't really have to do like deal with them on a
Right.
personal level.
Yeah.
So most of it was just mostly internal work, and that and like just going within self for my spiritual journey. Like I'm still on the journey and like it doesn't end, but the world kind of reflects certain things back to you that
Yeah.
you're holding within or things that you're trying to overcome. Um, so a lot of the interactions was mostly reflections from what's within and the interaction with the world at hand at large, more so.
Okay.
Um, certain like my family dynamic, like my parents are split,
Mhm.
but growing up, I would go and see my dad and like spend time with him and like my stepmom and stuff. And I grew up with like my grandparents too, and then my mom and my two brothers. Um, but like as I got older, like certain interactions, I felt like I was able to be more transparent with my dad because he was more understanding and patient when it came to like listening and wouldn't kind of like jump to conclusions in a way.
Okay.
And there's just certain dynamics where it's like, okay, like what's really necessary and what's not necessary
Mhm.
as far as what's in alignment with what you're trying to overcome or need assistance with,
Yes,
if that
definitely.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, kind of just went on a tangent. But
No, it's a awesome answer. Thank you for that. So honestly, from what I'm taking from this is that it kind of supports the idea that there really is not a safe space for like Black men to talk about their mental health. Um, and from what you explained, like it kind of supports that. So what do you think like people surrounding, like community, like literally anybody around you, like what do you think needs to be done in order for Black men like yourself to feel more comfortable about talking about like your mental state, like without feeling like it's burdening people? Like what needs to be done? Like, yeah.
mhm. um, first step, being honest with yourself,
Mm, okay.
first and foremost, and a safe space to be held. Because sometimes there's certain things you don't need to share with everybody if they don't have the capacity to hold space for you.
That's very true.
You know, like if you know that someone will hold space for you and like how you feel, what you're thinking, what you're going through, then you know that that space you're in, like you can be as transparent as possible and won't have to like sugarcoat things or feel like you're being shut down or um not really comforted in what you're expressing. And what I mean by comfort, like a sense of like validation, even though like when you're going through something, like you don't need that validation. You know what you're going through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of just like this like mutual understanding and like a sense of compassion without feeling like it's not healthy or not normal, quote unquote.
And it's funny. I was kind of hoping that you said that because that kind of goes into my other question. What do you consider normal? I think for me, I've read and I've done a lot of research about just like the psyche and, men and little boys, they're kind of taught from a really young age that, suppress any feelings that are not masculine. And it's really weird, but I think a lot of people, I guess, would generate or like consider being vulnerable being really feminine. And I think that's one of the reasons as to why a lot of people might not feel as like, or not people, a lot of men might not feel as driven to like share their feelings because it's like, you don't want to be viewed as weak. Or like, do you ever feel like that has kind of stopped you from sharing your feelings, whether they be like too feminine or like, something out of the quote unquote norm?
Mm. The thing about me is that like I bottle in emotion sometimes. So I feel like what I feel is sometimes too heavy and too deep to be shared with somebody else. Um, I also know that each individual holds both masculine and divine feminine energy within them too, you know? It's not just like polarized to one side of the spectrum just based off of um autonomy, you know?
Mhm.
Um I feel like I didn't answer your question.
That's okay. So has like it's never really stopped you from like what people say, like, oh, don't like, I feel like the common misconception, especially within our generation too, like the millennial generation, is like men can't have conversations. Like you can't tell a guy, look, oh, I love you, bro. Like, or, how are you doing kind of thing. Like, cause they'll be like, oh, like, are you okay? Kind of and question their motives. So I feel like that mentality is kind of, it's really dangerous because regardless of like what state you are in, like whether it be happy, whether it be contentment, like whether it be like rock bottom, you are not going to feel open enough or not comfortable enough to like really be vulnerable about all your feelings that you have. And I feel like a lot of men, especially like a lot of men that I know, like I'm really close to my dad, so like he'll talk to me about a lot of stuff that he hasn't even really told, some of his longest best friends. And I've asked him like, why kind of thing. And he's like, sometimes we just don't have that conversation. But it's weird because it's like, how does it not come up? Like when I see my friends, I'm just like, how are you doing? How are you mentally? How is everything going kind of thing?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Do you have those conversations with your male friends, or is it really just like cut and dry kind of thing? Or do you guys really talk about your feelings?
Depends on the situation. It really depends. I think it's not a common thing because of the amount of rape that has been done to the human psyche and the mind from society.
Yeah.
So the things that once were healthy and normal have been inverted
Mm-hmm.
in a way to seem like it's not a normal thing, because when you show if you show vulnerability as a individual, then you're not strong, you're deemed as weak.
Yeah.
But there's strength in being vulnerable.
Yeah, because you're strong enough and you have that much courage to show all sides of yourself, not just like, the side that I have to be strong all the time. But like with the research that I did, with even the mentality that a lot of Black people have in this community, is that like we've kind of been forced to have that mentality if you really think about it. Because like after slavery, even during slavery, like anything that was done to us, we really couldn't, like, we were numb to it after a while. So I feel like a lot of people have really continued on that mentality that, regardless of what we go through on a daily basis, like it shouldn't affect us to the point where we're sitting here going crazy, quote unquote, or having like, some mental issues dealing with it. And I feel like that kind of contributes to our mental health because like, we're held up on a pedestal and we have to continue being this way in order to be considered Black. And if you're not that, then, do you really even live up to the title? Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's a really weird mentality. Like, do you feel like that, or?
I've had to fight against it. Like literally, like the way society is like been constructed, it's like, okay, like as a African,
Mm-hmm.
African, indigenous, or whatever the case may be, or politically stated as quote unquote Black.
Yeah.
Um, um, well, I lost my train of thought. Oh, okay. Society has created this character,
Mm-hmm.
and if you don't fill that role as a character,
Yeah.
then you're like a black sheep.
Yeah.
And because everyone has been so preconditioned to fit a certain mold in society,
Yeah.
they end up playing out these traits that they created for this character role. It's like a film, TV show, whatever the case may be. You have the character, you have the description of the character, how they act, how they talk, how they look.
Yeah.
And because this image has been so pushed out excessively,
Mm-hmm.
and shown, um, people mold and morph into that character that has been pumped out.
Yeah.
Like me seeing that made me do a complete 180 and just go the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And like I think that's what's kind of hindering a lot of cultures, especially like African American culture as well too. Like they created this certain image, and because it's been created, like people only know how to identify with what's outside of them.
Yeah.
They don't know how to just like see things for like what's being shown and being like, okay, like why is this being shown? Like what's the motive behind
Like
what's being pumped out?
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. It actually, like, it's crazy you say that. So many of the pop culture classes that I took throughout college, it just outlined that more and more. And I think like you brought it up, like you said it, you mentioned it, it was a really good point. The fact that like everybody in society is kind of steered towards being like that. I feel like there are people like you and I that's just like, I don't want to be a sheep. Like, let me go in an opposite direction because I just want to see like how long this is really going to go on for. But it's sad to say, like, it's been a long time. It's been decades.
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
A little scary. But on to my next question. So you did say, like, you did bring up an idea of society. And I kind of just want to go back to the whole idea of like mental health kind of. Personally, me talking to a lot of like young Black men that I know, you pointed out like society has created this image that everybody, a Black man, Black woman, have to live up to. But I also feel like sometimes, as much as it has like its pros, it has its cons too. And I've noticed a lot of those cons are kind of used against us when it comes down to like systematical or like, you know, getting justice where justice is like deemed. I'm kind of like off topic a little bit, but I just wanted to like start asking a question about, you know, do you ever feel like on like when you talk about society, like you work in probably a very multicultural atmosphere, do you ever feel like you get those like side looks still, or you know, you get like the lady clutching her purse a little closer when you walk by? Like, do you still feel like you get like those stereotypical like those looks and stuff? And especially like you have dreads too, so I've noticed like, I don't know, it's funny because like Black men have this, I guess, ideal look of how they're supposed to look. And then you said it, like, as you start to veer and like look a little bit different, everyone is just like, ooh, you're weird kind of. And they seclude you and, you know, treat you like a black sheep. Growing up, my dad has always been like, I've always wanted to get dreads, like locks, because I felt like that was the most, I guess, conscious way for me to like show how much I was learning on my own and how much I wanted to like, not like retaliate, but just, you know, be like, I'm woke kind of thing. Or, you know, I know what's going on. So I'm going to start doing subtle things to like show you guys that I really know what's happening, just to see if we want to continue being like the society that we've said we've left like decades ago. And with that being said, like my dad has always been like, you know, don't lock your hair yet. Like find a solid job and then lock your hair. And his thing, like he had locks a lot throughout my life and he cut them off, he started growing them, cut them off, and it would just be back and forth with him. But I always asked him like, why, like what made you cut them off kind of thing. And he's like, you know what, Denissa, realistically, life is a lot harder when you have locks. And he would always explain to me like this over and over again. And I didn't understand until I started seeing him like lose jobs for no reason. Just because like, you know, they would tell him, you know, I want you a little bit more clean shaven, or I can you like line up your hair a little? And he's like, no, that's not the real purpose of like, you know, why I'm doing this kind of thing. So do you ever feel like you still get those looks, or, you know, people might look at you differently because of the way that you look?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it like awesome?
Whenever I walk into a space,
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's just my spirit, but I attract unwanted attention.
Yes.
But then
Unwanted in all aspects, or?
yeah, whether it be like, who is that? Or like someone being nervous of like just my presence or my energy, or and like misinterpreting that.
Yeah.
But then me realizing that, I also realize that it's not a me thing, it's a them thing. You know, because the moment I'm just like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? Is it what I'm wearing? Is it how I like? Once that what's the word?
That like realization comes in to play. But like how, like I'm a person, like I'm in my head constantly all the time, like you know that, literally overthink all the time. But like how do you literally get yourself to the point where you're just like, honestly, it's not me, it's you, and you just say that and you stick with it? Like give me some advice, or give us all some advice, like, or like some of the tricks that you feel like you adapted over the years that were just like, you know, you just made you believe in yourself and just be more confident in like who you are.
Educating myself,
Okay.
not based off of what the school system has taught us, but going out of my own way to discover, and not even discover, just like remember and like relearn like my actual worth, not based on the worth that society says that I'm worthy of or worth being. um and walking in that strength wholeheartedly, and not like one foot in, one foot out.
Mm-hmm.
mm,
You said like finding your real self-worth. And like as you said that, I was like, do I know my self-worth? And as I start thinking of my own self-worth, it's sad to say, but it's kind of like goal driven, if that makes sense. It's really like, oh, I can offer this, or like, I study journalism, so I'm really good at doing that. I'm an amazing artist, so like, is it like that? Are like those type of self-worth things, like, or is it like characteristics like, I'm extremely loyal, I'm extremely, driven, dedicated? What is
More
it
so,
more like?
it's
Pardon?
more so, it's more so characteristics, because someone could
Okay.
be the craziest artist, the craziest architect, the
Yeah.
dopest painter, the dopest graphic designer, the dopest fashion designer, but their
Mhm.
character can be completely trash. you
I
know?
mean, I've seen it a lot, especially, it's sad to say, but in the GTA, I've seen some really well-known artists, and like, you see their work and you're like, this person must be like so conscious, and then you hear about like things that they're doing and you're like, oh my goodness, what's happening? Yeah, so that's extremely valid. Um, so do you feel like that, like you, during your healing, I guess, your journey of healing, that's when you start to like discover more things or characteristics of your self-worth?
I think we all have an innate feeling of what our
Mm-hmm.
self-worth is, but the circumstances and situations that life puts us through, or what we put ourselves through,
Yeah.
kind of make us question what our self-worth is,
Mm-hmm.
whether that be like, oh, not getting a certain job position, or
Yeah.
relationship fallouts, or friendship fallouts, um or likes on Instagram, quote unquote, like just
Yeah.
like small things,
Yeah.
um those small things kind of, not even kind of, sometimes they could really like put you in like the darkest places
Yeah.
that you never knew that existed within you, and make you
Yeah.
like beat up on yourself and view yourself as completely worthless and nothing. um I know, like, I've been through experiences like that. I know people that have been through experiences like that.
Like for you, when you experienced this, how did you like get out of it? Or was it like, did you take like a social media break? Is it like, you started doing more, I guess, healing stuff like Reiki or like meditation? Like, did you really have to do like that? I'm going to take a real break from social media, because I feel like everyone, regardless of how healed you might be, everyone, regardless, it's going to really affect you either once or twice in your life. Like a few times, you're going to be like, okay, I'm subconsciously affected by this, so I'm going to put my phone down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely taking breaks from like social media. Um, Separating myself from spaces and people, places, and environments.
Mm-hmm.
Because in doing so, you could kind of pick up on, okay, like, where is this trait coming from? Like, this isn't me, you know? And then
Right.
you kind of start cutting all the fat that's
Mm-hmm.
been accumulated around your aura, around your energy, around
Yeah.
your energy field. And like cleansing it with like fast, like I fast, so like doing like water fasts or meditating, yoga, um breath work, exercising, like just those small things kind of reinvigorate, well, like re-liberate your spirit to let it know that like, yo, like you're still alive. Like these, like there, like we have so, like there's a lot of tools that we have access to that we can utilize to help uplift our spirits.
Yes, definitely.
There's like although there's like more layers to it, there's like three main layers. You have like mind, body, soul, you know? Like if your soul is out of whack, if your spirit is out of whack, if you feel spiritually off, then it's going to affect your mental state. You know, if your mental state is off, then your body is going to feel off.
Yeah.
And everything is just interconnected. So it's a matter of like kind of like figuring out ways to recalibrate that system. If you're eating low vibrational food, then you're going to most likely be at a low vibration, you know? And food does affect how we think. Think and feel.
Yes, definitely. So are you a vegetarian or a vegan?
Yeah, just straight plant-based. Like I don't eat meat, no bread, no cheese, no dairy.
No bread?
Nah.
That's hard. Like I love it's like I was a vegetarian for a few years, but I don't know, man. The bread for me, I don't know. It's just something about that French bread. Seriously, I don't know, man. But that's really powerful though. Because I mean, I feel like we see it being promoted every day that it's like, you are what you eat kind of thing. But I feel like for me, sometimes what stops me from really venturing fully down that path is how trendy it has become. And like, as you said, like once I'm the same type of person, like once I see everybody steering towards like one path, I'm like, oh, okay, let it calm down for like a little bit and then see what it's about kind of thing. Cause like, I'm a journalist, so I'm always curious, but I'm like, is this something that is actually factual or is this something that is just, fun right now because it's a trend and everyone wants to be like, trendy and hippie and like cool. So like, yeah, I don't know. Have you ever got like a lot of backlash that you are just a hippie, I guess, or you just fit into that stereotype of the trendiness that everyone is trying to portray these days?
I was doing it before it was a trend. So like before, I used to like especially like family members and stuff. They'll be like, "Yo, like you don't miss, like you don't miss this, you don't miss this food," and it's like,
Yeah.
but you can't eat this food no more if you're doing it. Like trying to negate what you want to do.
Yeah.
For the betterment of yourself.
Yeah.
Like before, like people like question me about it and stuff, like why are you going like vegan or like plant-based or whatever. And my reason behind it is because like our teeth aren't designed to chew meat, you know? Like our body isn't meant to break down meat. Like it takes more energy for your body to break that meat down that you're eating. Like all those processed foods, you're doing more internal damage. But the thing with food, it's kind of more of like an addictive, like an unconscious addiction for people.
Yeah.
Like it's an unconscious drug. Like if people, like when you eat foods, you either get like certain textures out of it or the way it sounds when you're chewing it. You become addicted to that, like those senses.
Yeah, that's actually that's very true. Oh my gosh.
Or even like certain like flavors, even though like you can still flavor like some like roasted vegetables the way you flavor a steak or whatever, like there like there's a lot of alternatives, but now that it's become a trend, a part of me is just like, oh, now y'all want to catch up.
Yeah.
But then a part of me is just like, yo, like, where is this going?
Yeah. It's kind of scary, to be honest. Like, I remember when I was a vegetarian, my dad was like, trying to tell my mom, like, we should only eat meat like 3 times a week kind of thing, or 3 days a week kind of thing. And she's like, no, like, you're crazy. Like, we're Jamaican, so chicken is like, a side dish to us kind of thing.
Mhm.
So it was, even like, as you said, like a lot of your family will be like, oh my gosh, you're going to be missing this. You're going to be missing that. Like every single barbecue that we went to for the last 4 years of my vegetarian life, like my sisters were literally in my ear just chewing. They're like, this smells good, doesn't it? And, but they
They be
don't like,
doing that.
yeah, but people like, even till this day, people will be like, how did you do it, kind of thing? Because like I'm back to eating meat now, so people kind of question like why I did it or like how I did it for so long. And like I tell people all the time, realistically, after the first month or so of you not eating it, after like you start to feel so light. It's so weird. And so many people are just like, what do you mean? And I'm like, until you actually become a vegetarian or a vegan, like you won't understand the difference from eating meat to like not eating meat. But like there's a certain lightness that you feel that's like, wow, I can do anything. I can wake up on time. Like I'm not sluggy or tired, but yeah, it's crazy. Yeah,
For
I don't
sure.
know. Vegetarian, the vegan lifestyle, I think is like, it's really hard. Like what do you eat? Like what's your daily meals?
Um, Mostly fruits, vegetables. Yeah.
Okay.
Hold on. Hold that thought real quick. I know Sheena's gonna edit this. Just re-ask the
Probably.
question.
Okay. Are you back with us?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like how long have you been a vegan?
Started in 2014, end of 2014.
Mm-hmm. That's a long time.
So how long is that? Like seven years?
Mm. So do you
Yeah,
like
7 years. There were a few times.
continue. You can continue.
There were a few times where there were a few times where I would eat meat, like maybe like salmon, like here and there, but it wasn't something that was done like or like eaten like a week straight kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, I was
Like
like, did
there'll
you
be like a few times.
health issues?
No,
Like,
I think that was just from environment. Like external environment influencing that, not being stern in my eating practice.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, you're human. We're all human. We all sway sometimes from our path, and that's perfectly fine. I feel like sometimes you need to sway in order for you to like really, I guess, appreciate the journey that you're on, because you're like, ooh, no, I like this life better. But yeah, honestly, after my 4 years of being like, and I was a vegetarian when I was playing soccer in New York. So like playing consistent soccer like 4 times to 5 times a week, it was really, really hard. So that's why like I ask if you had any health issues, because like after a while of me like not eating meat, I had to start taking some supplements just to help replace, I guess, the meat, because I was eating meat for so long, playing soccer for so long. So my body was just so used to it. But yeah, after my 4 years, I came home and I was like, what? I think I had like a piece of fried chicken. My mom was like cooking it and I smelt it and I was like, I think today might be the day. I was like, honestly, I'd come back home from New York and like I didn't have my mom's cooking for so long. So I was like, wow, this is what I was missing for so long. But yeah, I mean, I feel like the fact that I did it was 4 years. 4 years. Yeah. And I feel like the fact that I did it, like, I'm the type of person I like to like prove people wrong, also myself. Because like once I prove people wrong, then like once I prove myself wrong, like I don't really care about people. But like, I was like, let's see if you can do this. And I really like stuck after like seriously, my sister actually dared me. That's how I became a vegetarian. I didn't want to share that, but my sister dared me because we were at a barbecue and I ate like 3 burgers in one sitting. And she was like, you eat so much. Like she's like, I probably bet you could never be a vegetarian. I was like, oh yeah, you bet me? She's like, I bet you. So that bet lasted 4 years. You could say I'm competitive to some extent, yes. But yeah, we're a little off topic, but that's okay. So before we finish,
that's still on topic.
All right, yeah, it's still on topic. Yeah, motivation, competitive, stay competitive, prove people wrong. That's like my mantra. I love proving people
put your mind to it.
I love it. Like, just like, yes, you doubted me, but you played yourself. All right. So with that being said, we are going to finish up today. So I guess like, what is one thing that you want people to take from this conversation today? 3 things. 1, 2, or 3. If you have like more than one, by all means share. But I don't want to put you on the spot and be like, hey, I need 3. If you have 1, that's awesome. But the more the merrier. What do we want to share with the young Black youth that like might be facing the same struggle, but like, aren't aware of how to really approach it? For the people that are Black sheeps, because the fact that like you've gone through a lot of things like yourself is remarkable, number 1. Number 2, you're such like a confident person. It's like it's insane because like I'm a confident person, but I still doubt myself sometimes. And I'm like the fact that you said you can walk into a room and not even question what you're wearing or like how you look. And you're just like, that's a you problem. Like, I love that. So yeah, what are some things that you want to share with any Black men, young Black youth, or just anybody in general going through what everyone is going through, to be honest?
One, you don't have to fit the mold society tells you to be.
Okay, I like that.
You can be comfortable in your own body. Your spirit can be comfortable in the vessel that it chooses to be in. And your spirit is unique to its own self. It doesn't have to be anything else or look up to anything else. Like, don't even look up to me.
Yeah, I was like, you're gonna get a lot of fans. I'll say his
Yeah.
Instagram handle is
Don't.
yes, guys, go follow him. He is phenomenal. He's talented and he's extremely conscious, as you guys can tell. But yeah, Jaden, thank you so much for today. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and I'm really just grateful and thankful that, you know, you were open enough to being vulnerable with us, because, you know, it's not easy, but we thank you. Yes.
Appreciate it.
No problem.
Another thing I wanted to add was that in that shadow, in that dark night of the soul, it will definitely be a battle, but that anger inside, that pain, we don't have to direct it out on each other through violence, you know? Like that energy and anger and frustration that gets externalized and brought out onto each other through violence can be transmuted. And what I mean by transmuted is like using that energy and creating something beautiful out of it instead of being destructive with it. You know what I mean? Because another thing is that like society has but really got into the psyche of, and like what I mean by psyche, like the mind of whether you're like from Caribbean background or like African or whatever your culture may be, or what male, female, whatever you identify with, created this parasite for us to hate ourselves. And like, because that parasite they've created has been so malicious, when we see our reflection, people that look like us, our brothers and sisters, we hate our reflection, you know, because society has made us hate ourselves.
Yeah.
And if we can flip that and turn that self-hate into self-love, like real self-love, not like in an abusive way or like abusing substance and like like doing all types of things. Like if you really like torch that parasite within our minds, then we won't view our reflection from a hateful point of view. You know, like us hating ourselves has made their mission easier for them, because if we're inflicting violence on each other within our communities and stuff, then they're sitting back and laughing.
Like, oh wow, like our
because
job here
they
is
don't have to do the work. We're making
Yeah.
their job easier. You
Yeah.
know, like we need to stop attacking each other. We need to stop inflicting violence on each other. Like we're much greater than what society tries to make us feel like we are.
Yeah.
You know, so self-love always.
Always.
Yeah.
Let love win.
Facts.
Love leads all. All the bumper stickers of love.
For real.
That was phenomenal. That was beautiful, man. Thank you so much for that. Yes,
Appreciate
guys.
you.
Well, no problem. The pleasure is all ours. Thank you guys so much for coming and joining our conversation today. Thank you so much to Jay for, again, being vulnerable and being a positive light in our community to, you know, share his insight and just, you know, be like strong enough to be vulnerable. There are so many men that would probably not do this. So, you know, we thank you so much for coming on and talking with us about mental health.
Sure. I appreciate it.
No problem. All right. Have a good one.
Take care.